Star Tribune. Masking urged to counter variant. Pioneer Press. CDC sees return to masks. Walz non-committal on mask requirement in schools after CDC changes. Well, first of all, Walz will do whatever the Education Minnesota tells him to do.
Correct.
And so he just hasn't been told yet what to do. If the kids go back to school, presumably they'll be masked. 14 Minnesota counties fit the bill for new CDC masking guidance in areas with high infection rates. Jan Malcolm, as recently as yesterday, saying we certainly are not over this. Does anybody see what's coming?
I believe what you're referring to is Walz, just like the genie says, yes, master, to the teachers union.
Coming on down the line, as they say.
Governor Walz from the Pioneer Press, another headline on the inside pages. Governor Walz optimistic for state fair as planned. I'm here to tell you right now, there will be no state fair.
What?
That's my prediction. Because you take all of this evidence together. How does he have it both ways? He can't very well come out and order kids to go back to school all masked up. He can't ignore the 14 counties where the variant is ravaging, apparently. He's not ignored CDC guidelines for the last 15, 16 months. So how does he justify allowing 2 million people over the course of 2 weeks or 12 days to be elbow to elbow, hip to hip at the state fairgrounds unmasked?
That's a GL bombshell.
Well, because that's tantamount. If he does that, and it's his problem, he painted himself into this corner.
Well, he created this mess.
So if he allows the state, and it would have to be his decision, I'm imagining. It can't be Jerry Hammer's decision. So if he issues some executive order that the state fair must be held, that we're going to have it as, then you got to shut up about everything else. You can't have it both ways.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Last year when that decision was made by the governor, he had executive power, which he does not currently have.
Right.
Does that make a difference?
Well, he could try to regain it.
Yeah,
but there's no way it would fly this time, would it?
Well,
sounds like that's where we're headed, Chris. He's going to try to regain it.
he can't have the fair and continue his warlord-like status over the pandemic. Get it? He can't. He can't just say, you know what? I'm going to suspend everything I'm saying for 12 days. You all go have a good time at the fair. 2 million people for 12 days. You can't wear a mask at the fair.
But once the
whole point to go to the fair is to eat.
Right. But once the clock strikes midnight on Labor Day, boom.
Then what, Walz? Then you come back and pretend you're still going to be panicked about the pandemic? There's no way this can happen.
Joe.
Let's hit pause a second here. Joe, in Minnesota, 5.64 million people. Mm-hmm. We have, as of today, newly reported cases, 894. Newly reported probable cases, 138, for a grand total of 1,032. Hospital beds. Where is my hospital bed stuff? We have, Phil for a second.
Well, I know what you're attempting to say, that statistically the virus continues to be not significant given the greater population, but that's never been Walz's game plan or his people. They've always adhered to CDC guidelines, and they've always adhered to government shutdowns, no matter the statistical probability of getting the damn illness, which is real.
Facts don't matter. In Minnesota, there are 130 state-licensed hospitals with 16,140 beds. That was in 2019. Mm-hmm. Again, 1,000 cases, or just over 1,000 cases.
But that's been the modus operandi. We have never had a governor reminding us or assuring us that statistically the number of cases does not measure up to the state's population. He has used this to give himself repeated executive powers. He used this to order a shutdown. Mm-hmm. He used this to close schools, and now this variant, which is haunting him, has come back to bite him in the butt, because now you're faced with a state fair, Walz. What are you going to do? There's no way he can have the fair unless he's willing to surrender all the rest of his BS forever. Can't talk about it anymore. And if
Where does he
vaccinations work, why are we supposed to get masked up
That's
again?
exactly what I was just going to ask. Then what the hell was the point to begin with?
And-
If it was all this game of 2 weeks to slow the spread, it's just until, then what was the point?
What number are they basing the number of cases on that gives us the 14 counties?
Okay, let's go to that. 14 Minnesota counties fit the bill for new CDC masking guidelines in areas with high infection rates. At the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as they revised recommendations Tuesday for COVID-19 safety precautions, Minnesota saw 14 counties listed by the CDC as areas having substantial or high rates of new COVID cases.
What is
are
that
they?
number?
Yeah, what are they?
What is that number? Well, I have the county breakdown here.
I can finish. The CD said it used a combination of data to determine which counties across the country were considered to have substantial or high rates of new infections, most tied to the new Delta variant of the virus. Those two determinants are low vaccination rates coupled with a rise in new COVID cases. Dr. Michael Osterholm told 5 Eyewitness News that Minnesota has done a very good job overall of getting people vaccinated. However, he said there are areas of the state they are watching closely to see what trends develop in the coming days and weeks. Minnesota has to feel good about what it's done in regard to immunizations, Osterholm said. But the problem is we do have pockets within the state where we have low vaccination rates, and now these counties have been highlighted because we haven't seen transmissions. And the question we're going to have to deal with over the coming days and weeks is what do we do if we actually see those transmissions increase? Well, you cancel the fair for starters. As of Tuesday, the CDC identified 11 Minnesota counties as having substantial levels of community transmission. Cottonwood, Dodge, Isani, Mille Lacs, Pope, Redwood, Roseau, Scott, Swift, Traverse, and Waseca. Meanwhile, Lake of the Woods, and Wilkin counties were all considered as having high levels of community transmission. We don't have any numbers on that, do we?
How tough was it to you not to rattle off the
Wait
rest
a minute.
of them?
I could do that.
I have numbers. There's no Lakewood County listed here.
As far as the current 14 counties are concerned, Osterholm said, I think the message we want to get across is we're not done with this virus yet. And so this is really targeted at those counties where we are seeing this very high level of transmission and for which vaccinations are still very low. Osterholm said the CDC's new recommendations, which include the suggestion all teachers, staff, and students must wear masks when they return to school, are corrected science. So data that showed a year ago that showed kids were only infrequently infected or only infrequently transmitting the virus, we now know is not the case, Osterholm said. Again, these guidelines are really reflecting the science as we now have it today, as we learned over the course of recent weeks and months. Okay? Mike has been very close to Walls over the last year and a half. I could try to get Mike on to see what he thinks about the state fair. But do you see where I've found that Walls can be painted into a corner here?
On so many different levels, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you something. Newly reported confirmed cases. What number should we call shocking? 10?
I don't know.
Let's say 10 is the number. Anoka, 65. Benton, 12. Blue Earth, 11. Crow Wing, 10. Dakota, 66. Freeborn, 10. Hennepin, 251. Olmsted, 31. Ramsey, 109. Scott, 12. Sherburne, 21. St. Louis,
I get
31.
it. I get it. Your point is what?
My point is, what's the number? I mean, what is the number we're supposed to be going by? 5, 10, 20, 30? Come on. Give us more information.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said he remained optimistic that the fair would go on as planned next month, despite increasing reports of the COVID-19 Delta variant spreading in the state. He said that he and health officials were tracking the virus spread and weighing whether mitigation measures would have to be taken at the 12-day event or as students returned to schools in a little more than a month. What mitigation measures could be taken at the fair? You can't get in unless you're vaccinated?
Oh.
Well, that's the only mitigation
Show us your papers.
dynamic I can come up with.
But that doesn't even matter as it relates to the schools.
Well, he's going to do whatever the union tells him to do, and they haven't told him what to do yet.
Joe, if that happens, if your prediction comes true, how many countless lawsuits will be filed?
I don't know. But again, it's basically comes down to this. It's either the state fair or his career. You can't have it both ways. You cannot have spent a year and a half telling me that I have to wear a mask and get vaccinated, which I have done. You can't tell me not to go into crowds. You can't tell me anything more. And then also tell me, by the way, I think it's fine that 2 million unmasked people with unknown vaccination status will be able to go elbow to elbow at the Minnesota State Fair for 12 days. You can't have it both ways. You just can't.
Question. Mm-hmm. Do we all four agree that 1,032 newly reported cases among 5.6 million is low?
Yes.
Do we all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
What
Absolutely.
Yes.
number would it take for all of us to agree that the state fair does have to be shut down? 5,000, 50,000, 100,000?
Well,
Where do you draw the line? That's my question.
Well, I
Lots more.
I view it from a different perspective.
How?
I'm viewing it through the lens of what Walz has done for the last year and a half and how he's now prepared, presumably, to get back on board with new CDC recommendations. How does he justify the fair? Won't make any difference to him if it's one case or a million cases. That's not the point here. The point is, I've been your leader. I've been the guy guiding us through the wilderness of this horrible illness. And now it's rearing its head again with something called the Delta variant. We've got 14 counties in Minnesota. We have no numbers for them, but we're told that they're problematic. What? Walz, you can't have a fair then. Because if you have the fair, shut the hell up about everything else. And now, does he want to shut the hell up about everything else?
And the answer to that is no. Mm-hmm. In fact, Jordy, fittingly, just submitted a public service announcement. Remember to get vaccinated, or a vaccinated person might get sick from the virus they got vaccinated against because you're not vaccinated.
Well, he sent something else. Fox News, citing a local incident in La Jolla, Texas, found that the Border Patrol is releasing COVID-infected illegals into Texas communities. That's a curious thing, given that Biden drew headlines for supposedly keeping Title 42 in place, which would require the Border Patrol to instantly expel migrants based on COVID concerns. Based on this kind of news, the order is a de facto rescinded, whether Biden says so or not. In this Texas case, illegal migrants had been let in and then handed over to the NGO National Catholic Charities in La Jolla, Texas, which housed them unguarded in local hotels. After that, they walked around unencumbered and in one incident wore no masks and coughed all over locals in fast food establishments, according to a La Jolla Police Department tweet. Why are we discussing wearing masks when illegal aliens are being shipped all over the USA?
Oh, boy. That's a whole nother can of worms, isn't it?
You're saying that, well, I'm not going to go down that road. We went down that road yesterday. Thanks a lot, John.
Walz non-committal on mask requirement in
here.
schools. Governor Walz was non-committal Tuesday when asked if he would go further than new guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and impose a new mask mandate for Minnesota schools. Walz removed his statewide mask mandate this spring as vaccination rates grew and COVID-19 cases receded. At the time, the CDC said vaccinated people no longer had to wear masks in indoor public spaces. But, as we now know, yesterday, the CDC reversed itself and said vaccinated people should wear masks indoors where the virus is surging because of the variant. The agency also said people should wear masks in school buildings regardless of vaccination status. We've got 5 weeks before school starts. We're having deep conversations every day, especially around school and looking at events that are coming, Walz told reporters at the state capitol yesterday. We have the vaccine, all of the angst around what's going to happen, what are we going to do around masking, all of this. Let's be very clear. We control our destiny 100%. No, Walz, you control our destiny 100%. Walz and his staff were unmasked during a news conference in the governor's Capitol reception room. Ramsey County is not among the Minnesota counties that are seeing the highest growth rate. Okay. Walz expressed confidence that the Minnesota State Fair will go ahead full scale next month. He said Monday he had not yet considered a new statewide emergency that would allow him to put new restrictions, including a mask mandate, in place. The evidence is all around us that he's going to be faced with an incredibly difficult decision. It's either his career or the fair.
Well, and not to mention, if all of this is re-implemented the way it was, months ago, A, a certain percentage of people are just going to ignore it, but B, there's going to be, is mutiny too strong of a word here?
No.
Because I think it's going to rear its ugly head, especially in relation to kids going back to school. It's going to be ugly.
Let's read from Scott from Inver Grove. He's been a good reporter in the field about COVID, and he has the creds because he had COVID and is still suffering symptoms of a long hauler. But he keeps up his spirits. My prediction of a return to last year's COVID-19 mandates and rekindling of the ridiculous power grab by those in charge is moving along without skipping a beat. Now the CDC has done yet another 180-degree spin and is recommending even those who have been vaccinated to wear a mask. To quote the mentally confused senior citizen in the White House, come on, man, where in the heck is the logic in that? Why get vaccinated if you still need to wear a mask to prevent exposure to the virus? Walz is already greasing the skids with his not ruling out a re-implementation of his executive powers, which he only surrendered to make sure Republicans passed his budget. Look at what Scott says. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if he squashes the state fair. Following the science, the Delta variant is much milder than the original strain. Viruses mutate to less deadly strains to stay alive. Otherwise, man would have become extinct eons ago. Truth be told, death rates are flat and far lower than last year. Additionally, if these tyrannical leaders really wanted to walk their talk about ending the pandemic, they would close the borders to illegal immigration. But instead, the southern border is flourishing with unvaccinated people crossing into the country illegally. Even more egregious is the ignoring the most valuable groups, the elderly and those with comorbidities. These are the two groups who suffered the most during the past year and who are best served by being vaccinated. However, you don't hear those in charge focusing their message at those two groups. Healthy Americans should be allowed to choose to vaccinate or not vaccinate with absolutely no stigma thrown upon either group. Besides, we have been told that if we get vaccinated, we are safe, right? Not really, or you wouldn't be having the CDC recommend fully vaccinated continue to wear masks. When history looks back at this point in time, it hopefully will be made clear that this reaction to a pandemic is more about weakening the rights of the common citizen while strengthening those in charge who wish to govern with an iron fist. Never afraid and always pushing back. Scott from Inver Grove. The other thing you can conclude when you look back over the year and a half, nothing has changed.
Nope.
Now, vaccines came on the scene, and
That has changed.
and that was a change. Their efficacy remains in question, although I'm happy to have gotten the vaccine. I didn't think it was going to be Bill Gates implanting a microchip in my brain. I was happy to get it, and I think it's wise counsel. But in terms of the virus, it seems to operate in waves. You have a big wave, and there's a lot of cases reported, then it goes down, then it comes back, then it goes down, and it comes back. A, it's always going to be with us.
Yep.
It's always going to be on Earth. And B, nothing we've done has changed that wave pattern.
Which is
Nothing.
exactly why him going back to this card of socially distancing and masking, well, Gov,
That didn't work.
it didn't work the first time.
It didn't work in the sense that the virus is leading its own life. It's part of nature. It comes in waves.
14 counties. I have some information for you. Scott County, 12 new cases. I don't have data for Lake or Lake of the Woods. Redwood County, 4 new cases. Wilkin County, 2 new cases. I don't have data for Cottonwood. Dodge County, 5 new cases. Isanti, excuse me, 5 new cases. Mille Lacs, are you seeing what's happening here with
Yes.
what I'm reading you?
Yes.
Mille Lacs, 5 new cases. Pope, 1 new case. Swift, I'm getting angrier, 1 new case. Travers, I'm shouting now, 1 new case. And finally, Waseca, 2 new cases. 2 new cases.
If I was king, here's what I'd do.
Well, you are the mayor.
I would say vaccines are available. I think you're crazy not to get one. End of story. No more masks, no more shutdowns, no more socially distancing, no more
that's
nothing.
Joe.
That's essentially what Christy Nome is doing in South Dakota.
Wait a second. You're going to treat us like adults? Dare I say, you might say, if you're going to the fair and you're worried, you might want to toss on a mask?
Or maybe you don't want to go to the fair if you're worried.
Or
There you
maybe you
go.
want to go to the fair and not put on a mask. You're an adult. It's your decision.
But Kenny, I need to protect you from yourself. I'm the governor.
I have proven to be a threat to myself in the past. Fall down and break limbs and, get addicted to things
And the like.
and eat too many cheeseburgers.
If you
Thanks for watching this portion of Garage Logic on our YouTube channel. And thanks to our friends at Everest Men's Health for supporting this. Go to everestmenshealth.com to see if their team can help you with stronger energy and better health. And catch the Garage Logic podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.